first S&L song that I wrote was Paramedic Scryer, and it definitely has that entombed inspiration, also kind of the sound of it. That was the first song I brought to Morten's garage.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Michael says, I think it's pretty easy to hear the entombed vibe. I also tried to do that on the drums, like good old Nick Anderson style, here and there. So yeah,
almost.
Yeah.
Well, I think when I took the decision to form S&L, it was definitely with the plans of writing a full album. So yeah, you know, I had so many ideas for the songs that are now on the album that it was obvious that we wanted to make a full album, and not just do a couple of songs for the fun of it. First of all, we did form the band just for the fun of it, but it was definitely with a future plan of releasing it as an album. That's not really my table. I just wrote all the music, but the lyrics, that's Mark's table and Frank's table.
The lyrics were written by a guy whose name is Doc Albers, and he's actually a psychologist. And because I have family, I have a job, so I wasn't able to write all the lyrics. And I knew this guy via a friend of mine, who plays in a band called Temple of Dread, and he introduced me to him. And yeah, I asked him because I liked the lyrics of that album from these guys, and because it's very deep psychology stuff. And I actually asked him if he would be able to help me with the lyrics. So that's how it all started, and we started from talking to each other and. I was telling him what kind of direction I would like to have the lyrics. We exchanged ideas, and he was the one who came up with the first lyrics, and that was Island of Dead Men. So that was the first one we worked on together.
Flemming Lund is a very good old friend that I know way back to when I was playing in Dominus, my first death metal band back in the days. He had a band called Autumn Leaves, and so it goes way back, but I actually think Morten knows him better because it was actually Morten bringing Flemming's name up when we talked about recalling solos, lead guitar.
Yeah, you had some names, some big names, and we discussed who should do this. And one day in this garage, I played some of the newer stuff Flemmo did, and I noticed that you liked it. And then when we were in the studio, we had this discussion again, who should do this. And I remember we also came up with Flemming's name, since he lives almost right next to the studio and is a phenomenal guitarist. And I remember Jacob Hansen also said, yeah, sure, he can do it like this, no problem. So
yeah, Flemming has also been in Invocator with Jacob Hansen, and now he has this band, Arcane Order.
Yeah.
And Morten sent me some of Flemming's solos from the Arcane Order, and I said, oh my God, it sounds like Chuck Schuldiner, my all-time favorite. I said, if he can do that on the S&L songs, because there's an obvious inspiration from Death and the way Chuck is playing his guitar, so it was perfect that Flemming kind of had that same feeling. I could also hear when I was listening to his solos, there was some Mike Wheat inspiration in there that sounded pretty good. And then it was just a nice feeling to bring in a Danish guy that we both know from way back and just keep it old school and kind of in the family.
Yeah, and I also think that with Flemming, we knew that he's not gonna just do something fast and say, here it is, guys. He was all the time like, if you don't like it, let me know. This is how I hear it. But he was really open-minded to to let us say what we mean, but none of the stuff he came up, did we comment anything else, then this is really good. We'll take it like that. So
And he could totally hear the inspiration.
Yeah,
So, you know, if I didn't even have to tell him when, I think it's in the Isle of Dead Man, we have a slow part that's obvious, inspired by Autopsy. So before I could even write or tell him anything, I said, I assume that you want an Autopsy solo on this part. There you go. Yes, that's exactly what I need. You know, we booked a week, but I think we only used like 5 days.
yeah, I mean, it was actually we were there
sessions.
twice, 2 sessions, and the first one I think we spent like 4 days altogether with vocals, recorded 4 songs, and the next time we started on a Monday and had the whole week, and then I think, was it Tuesday or Wednesday, we were, what are we going to do now? Because Mark was coming Friday, I think, or Thursday, and then we'll start Friday. So we had to figure out what to do on the Thursday, and we ended up, I drove to Aarhus early in the morning to pick up a bass.
Yeah, because you know, suddenly, you know, why not put bass on the record? You know, I was in contact with different bass players, and suddenly we had 1 or 2 days where, because we were already done, so we kindly asked Jacob, "You want to play the bass?" "Sure, why not?" So we picked up that bass in Aarhus, and Jacob recorded the bass on 1 or 2 days or something.
He's crazy. He's like, he just played it, you know, and tracked it first take, kind of like.
It's only bass.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Wednesday at 10 o'clock, the drums were done, and then Michael already tracked some guitars Monday, Tuesday as well. So yeah, Wednesday we were done with the drums and guitar.
Yeah, it went pretty fast.
Yeah.
We've been in the studio for the vocals, I would say, like not longer than a week. We did it in 2 packages. First vocal package I did in October 22. And I'd been there in Denmark, in Ribe, in his studio for like 3 days, and we recorded 2 songs per day. And the second batch we had, I think, in February. So all in all, 6 days, I think, for the vocals. Yeah, and it was really easy to work with Jacob, and also Michael was there in the studio and produced it. You know, so it was really good, really fun to work with.
No, you know, when I called Jacob, I said, "How long time is it since you've been recording really, really old school death metal?" And he could not even remember. And he said, and when I, you know, if you take new recordings, you know, it always end up being a little bit more polished.
Yeah.
So really old school death metal, he could not even remember probably some, I don't know, when he was doing Invocator. I said, you know, this new project that I have, this is totally not about polishing it. You know, let it be raw. And he thought that could be a very, very fun project, because he said, I would love to do something like that where we don't use too much time on takes or polishing anything. So he thought it would be a great challenge, but also lots of fun because he already knew everybody in the band.
Well, I know Jakob Hansen from long times ago. Actually, I know him from the early 90s when I played with Morgoth, and his band Invocator was supporting Morgoth a lot of times when we played in Denmark. So that's where I actually know him from. So of course I've followed his path as a producer, and know that he was like working with the bigger bands now, like Volbeat and Nightwish and all these female-fronted metal bands. So the first time actually I met him was actually in the studio, I think, after like almost 30 years. And it was great to work with him. I mean, I still recall him from those early concerts. and he was always a very easy and nice person, so it didn't change. And it was very, very great to meet him again and to work in this atmosphere, and was really relaxed, very calm, just concentrating on the stuff we worked on, and yeah, went through like a knife through butter, actually. Like that was really cool to work with him, and yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I would say that the one thing we really discussed with him and told him many times was, don't overproduce it. We know, everybody knows Jacob Hansen is the guy who he can polish a turd and make it sound perfect. But we were like, yeah, if the snare drum is a bit out of tune, or I hit the drums a bit on the side or something, that's okay. This was, we wanted like this 93 sound or something like that. So, and no triggers, no this and that, and you know, so this was what we
basically, we didn't have to tell him anything.
No.
He knew what we were talking about because he's been
Yeah.
listening to those records too. So
Yeah.
he knows what he's doing. Oh, so the outro on the album is my daughter saying for helvede. And to translate that into English, I don't know if you can actually do that, but it's when something is so disgusting and yeah, you go for helvede. Or something is so bad or so terrible or just really out of order, or you go for helvede. It's like the worst thing in hell you can imagine. So we were just driving around in my car and I came up with the idea and I said, yeah, that's my daughter's name. Can you say for helvede? Sure, but am I allowed to do that because that's like cursing? Say, yeah, today you can say whatever you want to do. And I just gave her my phone and she said, for helvede. And I sent it to Jacob. Can you produce this? Can you put that into a small snippet of music that we recorded? Yeah, it's not a problem. So, and then, you know, it feels good for me, you know, to say I have my daughter on the album, and
yeah.
it's a sweet thing.
I also think it adds some of the, at least the Danish irony from back in the 90s with those albums. There was a lot of small clips with someone saying something in Danish. Yeah. So that this ends this like for helvede, it's like, yeah, it's sending a bit of a message with the irony. So.